Well, CEI, welcome to our Friday forum. It is such a pleasure to have Jeff here today. I'll introduce him in a moment, but it's June 4th, and we are excited about summer semester beginning on Monday. So that is going to be wonderful. We'll see students back on campus. And actually, this is a treat for me. We haven't given Jeff Sneddon enough time to really get acclimated to the college. It's been probably 3 weeks, maybe a little bit longer than that. But Jeff is our new Executive Director of Workforce Training. So Jeff, welcome.
Good, thank you. It's very good to be here.
It is great to have you. You've got a fascinating background. So a good way to start these is give us a little background, a little color of where you've come from and what you've done in Maine. So
Sure.
Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, it started out, I spent over 9 years in small business assistance at the Small Business Development Center and directed 3 different centers in Virginia. So it actually was Virginia. And then did economic and community development with an economic development district there in the Council of Governments.
Good.
And then the last 9 years have been workforce development, working through a community college, through Job Corps, and through as a workforce development center, working in partnership with the Department of Labor. And we called career centers, the American Job Centers in Maine. And so I was overseeing 6 centers in 5 counties.
Right.
And through all of that, it's significant employer engagement, collaboration with stakeholders. That's how you get things done.
Yep.
From chambers to higher education to economic development entities to state and local and nonprofits, and working with a diverse population from students to faculty to employees to CEOs.
So why on earth would you pick you've been primarily on the East Coast. What is interesting about Mountain West and maybe Idaho Falls in particular? I wouldn't imagine that this would be a choice for a lot of people. So why here?
Sure. Well, originally I'm from Utah. Graduated at University of Utah.
Okay.
And my wife's from Colorado. And we love the mountains. And I was looking to get back into workforce development because in my mind, you've got economic development, business assistance, and workforce training. And if you want a strong economy, you have strong businesses, and with strong businesses, you need highly adaptable, qualified employees.
Right.
So I really like being at that part to help expand that. And looking at the job opportunities, I saw CEI. Looking at the website, to me, it's very forward-thinking, very innovative with the future tech and the regional labor skills center.
Right.
And so in my mind, that was very attractive to me to be in as the development and expanding of the college.
Yeah. I haven't gotten a chance to meet your wife yet. And because this isn't an interview, I can ask you, tell us about your family, because they're going to be here quite soon.
Sure. They actually are. Again, Leslie, my wife, is from Colorado. I have 2 sons. One is in Moscow, which is another reason, again, to come to Idaho. And he's at New St. Andrews. And my other son is a sophomore, actually doing finals today as we speak.
Good.
And he'll be coming out. And actually next week we'll be heading out this way.
Okay. Well, it is perfect. So a week ago, you got a chance to sit in on a trustee meeting. So got a chance to meet our 5 trustees. It was in a formal setting. We had a little bit of a dinner and talked about budgets. And I think you're familiar with boards of trustees. So these are elective officials. And what's your impression of our board of trustees?
I guess they're engaged and they pay attention and they ask the detailed questions and they ask the hard questions. And all of that is because they want the best for the college.
Right. So you kind of got thrown in. We wanted to introduce you, but because we were going through budgets, you got asked a few workforce questions, and you did well. Christy was there as well. So we do have a really good and engaged set of trustees, and it was nice for you to meet them because they're the ones that set the direction for the college. Well, why don't you reflect? And again, maybe there's not a whole lot of time to reflect, but as you're getting to know the workforce and community community education, what strikes you with us as a college and with that group that you're going to be the executive director of?
Well, I had mentioned last night in the trustees meeting, again, as I said, the campus, the culture is very innovative, very forward thinking, and very best practiced minded.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's like that.
Yeah.
And so it's not in pockets. That's kind of the culture here. And I've seen everybody is very welcoming, very team oriented, very encouraging, supportive at all levels. So I think that's an exciting, a very dynamic environment that you don't see that much anymore.
So the odd thing about workforce, and we've kind of reminded our faculty and staff and anybody from the community that is watching, that workforce is a little bit unique in that we don't have a lot of general fund that goes into workforce. So literally you're what we would call self-support. So is that a frightening prospect for you to not know that money comes from the state into workforce versus what you're going to have to do is interact with business and industry?
Sure.
And kind of bill training as it occurs.
But if you think about that, that's who my customers are doing. That's what they're doing. The same thing.
They are.
So that helps me to be able to relate on a more peer-to-peer level in some degree.
Right. I don't think we have had you connected much yet with Idaho National Lab. Mm-hmm. So as you're getting to know the region, to understand the region, you have to understand the lab. Mm-hmm. So what strikes you with the lab, and any kind of reflections you've got on that?
Well, actually, I just had a meeting with 3 or 4 of their instructors earlier this week.
Good. Yeah.
Sam Peterson and Judd Brown and others. And I think what strikes me is they seem to be very supportive of the community. They recognize that they're large and that they take a lot of resources, but they also give back in a lot of ways. And I think they're supporting us for us to meet their needs, but also to help support to meet the community's needs. Mm-hmm. So I see it as a very give and take relationship that helps to support and build the community.
So what do you think are the prime programs that you're going to have or do have now? So where do you think the growth is going to be in?
Well, there's a couple of things. Right now, because of the pandemic, I think that has forced us to go online sooner than we probably all would have been comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're going to stay there.
Right.
Which is why we're looking at Online Idaho.
Good.
And so what we want to do is to help. I know the credit side is looking at bringing general education on. We also want to support that effort and bring on IT and cyber courses.
Good.
And so it's moving into that area. And then also, I think due to external pressures, the large influx of population, we're going to need a lot more construction workers and all the trades to support that, and to obviously support the laboratory as they continue to grow. And then you have the aging out of workforce, but particularly the healthcare.
Yeah.
So we're in the process of, we're going to be expanding into our healthcare training opportunities, and we're going to have a healthcare program manager, because we see that's a critical infrastructure need to have solid healthcare.
So I think because we brag about this all the time, but the head count for workforce is in excess of 14,000, I think 14,600, something like that. But that's bigger than any of the other. There are 6 of us. 2 of them are embedded in a university, and 4 community college, but 6 of us that have workforce training centers. And Really, by far, even to include Boise, we've got the largest, and you're going to be able to inherit that and hopefully be able to move that even further along. So we've got more to brag about. So, what are some things that you'd think you'd be doing in order to do that training and retraining, the non-credit work you do?
Well, there's two things. We have a number of different customer segments. One of them is the worker, whether they're entry level in a current position. So where are they in their career continuum? So how do we provide value, credentials of value to get them either into the job or as they move along the career? So it'd be meeting with the high schools to help the students to know what their opportunities are. And then also working with the agencies that work with dislocated workers to help retrain the workers.
Right.
And then the other customer is really the business and industry. What do they have for existing employee needs to train and upskill their employees? And if they're getting ready to hire, is there a way to do a training program to help facilitate the skills that the new workers are going to need?
Yeah. You brought up the health professions. And again, we think about nursing here, but it's far broader than that. And especially in what you do in non-credit, I think there's some segments that we haven't looked at yet that are probably worth looking at. So do a couple come to mind for you?
Well, I think part of it is supporting the credit side for a medical lab technician.
Yeah.
And type of those. So how do we support the existing healthcare associate's degrees, but also what are their continuing CEUs that they're going to need to stay current? Is there a way to help support that and help the healthcare?
And remind us what a CEU is.
That's a continuing education unit that they're going to need to have their certification current or to stay along. And typically they do that because some of the industries change so much, or it's a revisit of the foundational skills so that you stay adept at your work.
Yeah. So rather than giving credit then, which goes into a transcript, we can give continuing education units, which in some respects are quite valuable to an employer. And a lot of times employees will get raises and promotions and those kind of things by demonstrating competency. So talk about competency for a little bit, Jeff. Because you're dead center in that realm of competency.
Well, to me, it's two things. It's knowledge and action or ability.
Okay, good.
Because I can know it all I can, but if I can't demonstrate it, then it's not usable.
Right.
And so one of the things that we do with the training programs is to have a number of different kind of learning modes. From what is the instruction? It's show, teach, do. So I want to show you what it is. I want to teach you how to do it. And then I need you to do it to make sure that you're proficient. And so to me, the competency is I need to be able to be proficient to demonstrate it, whatever that skill is, because we're very skills development dependent.
Right.
And so what we're training the workforce to be effective in the employers, but we want to make sure before we hand them off that they're able to do what we said that they will be able to do.
Right.
And so that to me is proficiency.
You haven't had a whole lot of time. I don't know what you know about apprenticeship. So,
well, I do, and I'm familiar with that. The apprenticeships that we worked with was a national registration.
Right.
Where they would be the national register and they would actually become an employee of the employer.
Right.
And do that. So it's a little different model here. But to me, it's exactly what we're talking about, a certain amount of seat time training, and then hands-on on the job training. And to me, I think there's the most effective way. But one of the things I think you're seeing is that's always been traditionally the trades. Yeah. But now they're doing it in healthcare, they're doing it in nursing, they're doing it in office support. They are. Because that's really it is. And I've seen that with dental labs and other places where it's a complete simulation. And one of the things that we do and I want to do is how real can you make it? Mm-hmm. Because the more real you can make it, the better trained our students are going to be when they walk out for that job opportunity. You know, simulations have always been interesting to me, and I think an area that CEI could be
maybe recognized at a state level, if not regionally, with our ability to do simulations. And of course, in nursing, we've got a world-class simulation lab there. But there's other areas of simulation that we could get into. So what comes to mind with simulations?
One of the examples is in heavy equipment operator.
Yeah.
Because it's very expensive. That's very heavy equipment. It costs money to run them. So we've seen and we've utilized simulation for excavator, for backhoe, those type of things. And it's actually, again, as real as you can get it. You've got the screen. You can actually have 3 screens around you if you want. The seat actually vibrates and moves depending on what you're doing. And you've got the hand controls and the foot controls, just like if you're sitting in the equipment.
Right.
So that's a really good example. And what we're finding is the youth, believe it or not, are really good at that because that's what the joysticks and the gaming is all about.
It is.
So
That's
they're seeing an opportunity to get into that industry.
So we're looking at hoisting and rigging, and we're planning to do that in fall. Hopefully we can connect with a regional workforce skills center, but we're still trying to negotiate on a building.
Sure.
So, but you're looking at ways to do that kind of training. Again, hoisting and rigging and those kind of competency-based.
We are. To give you an example, this fall, we're having the standard apprenticeships, but we're going to have the labs all set up because it's hands-on. What you want is the HVAC, you want the electrical, you want panels, you want all that right there so that they can learn and then go back out and practice it. And then you can have the instructor monitor to see where their strengths and weaknesses are, to come back in the classroom, to strengthen them, and go back out and practice.
Yeah.
So I think the more we can do that, and we're also doing, which is exciting, is an apprenticeship readiness for construction, because we recognize the huge demand for construction workers coming in.
Sure.
And so it's going to be open to students 16 and above, so that they can actually start in the high school and understand the construction industry and go into that apprenticeship afterwards. And then they're going to have it's an in-demand high opportunity that's going to be there for them.
Yeah, and sometimes that's referred to as pre-apprenticeship too. I think that it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I hate to have had this happen. We had a water heater go out at our home and had 2 different plumbers come over, and both of them are in our apprenticeship program, and they were so complimentary of how that works. So you're talking about just a really great model with practitioners, whether they're plumbers or electricians or any of these other kinds of trades, and they come, I think it's 2 nights a week, something like that, but have been very complimentary of CEI and what they're learning while they're employed. And they get a bump in salary as they progress toward journeyman status.
They do, and that's one of the things that, as the workforce training, how do we help support the workforce? Because as you said, there are salary bumps, there are merit raises, as they continue their lifelong learning.
Yeah.
So how do we help support them? Because part of what we're here is to help people with their quality of life.
Yeah.
Help them to go forward in where they want to go. So how do we support them in their efforts?
Now, it is possible, and again, I'm asking you questions that you may not know, and that's fair because you haven't been here that long, but are there not ways to go from that apprenticeship and then receive an Associate of Applied Science, an AAS?
I think you can, because again, it depends on, I'll give you an example, like dual skills. If I want to come in and do CNC machining or machine tool, because I'm going to do advanced manufacturing, but part of what I need to do, and it's cross training.
Yep.
So I know the rigging, I know the hoisting, I've done that. I've got the forklift. So I've got multitask abilities. And that's where you would come back and get the associates to help support that, because you're going to have a more comprehensive skill set. And you put that on the resume, and it's going to be much more marketable for our students going out into the field.
It is. And actually, I think in a lot of our cases, it is picking up those gen ed credits that take them into that Associate of Applied Science. So those are all really positive and a lot of opportunity in apprenticeship. You touched on Online Idaho, and for those of you that are watching, Online Idaho has not begun yet, but it will, and it is. We're looking at a fall rollout for it, and I think one of the things that I'm on the steering committee, and one of the things that some of the state board members have asked is don't limit that to credit programs.
Right.
And in our case, we've been pretty aggressive in looking at ways to load some of this training into Canvas. And then Canvas is the platform that would go out over Online Idaho. So what are some of the programs that you guys are looking at that could scale to Online Idaho, fully online?
Well, I think one of the earliest would be cyber.
Yeah.
And IT, because that's such a dynamic field that just continues to change. And I think, how do we make it accessible and affordable to folks in the field to be able to do that?
Right.
And again, part of the opportunity is our courses will go Online Idaho, but that'll train anybody in the state of Maine and probably wherever they want to go outside of Idaho.
Right.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about welding much, and I think we just don't have enough welding booths. So is there anything that you're considering in that realm of welding that might help us in that workforce realm?
Well, again, it's space and allocation. So it's, how do we be creative with that? And part of it is there opportunity to do off hours, evenings and weekends, or little boot camps that are short term to get people upskilled. And the other thing is there's always the opportunity to do external welding booths, or even have it in a trailer that can be set up to make it mobile.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you had mentioned was simulations and trailers of workforce type training programs. It's nice to go out into the field. It's nice to go to the high schools. It's nice to go. One of the things I think is exciting is have a trades day.
Yeah.
And you have the employers there, and the kids get to touch everything. And that would be one of the opportunities to do that with welding, just to get a feel for what it's like.
There are welding simulators, and certainly with a lot of welding instructors, I don't know how valuable they think it would be, but at one level, for a high school student or even junior high to come in and play with that a little bit, just to see what that's like doing stick welding.
And it would be, because one of the things that's good with the training is you're not always standing in a comfortable position welding. Right. So part of that is to say, let's go through a series of typical things and see how you feel. And so that's a good, one of the things I think is important with our training, and I always consider success, is it also help people understand what they don't want to do.
Exactly.
And so that's a
good
success.
point.
If they come in and say, I thought welding was nice, but my body can't do that, then I think that's helped them down the road to what they want to do.
Yeah. Can you compare and contrast, if you would, Maine to here? So what in the realm that you're working in, what do you see that would be similar? What do you see that would be different?
Well, I think it's similar in a lot of the industries that are in need.
By the way, what are the big industries? Who or what are the big industries that you dealt with in Maine?
Well, we had paper products, wood products, because of all the mills.
Sure.
We had a lot of construction. We had IT. We had manufacturing, and obviously healthcare.
Yeah.
And then working at some of the innovative advanced wood products. And because Maine is 90% woods, so that was one of our areas, is how do we utilize the wood industry? And so the paper mills were starting to shutter. So how do we do that? So one of them is called Go Labs, an exciting company. What they're doing is they're using the wood chips to create insulation for residential and commercial.
Sure.
So there's things like that. How do you do that? One of the differences that I haven't really noticed here, but I know, is Maine is the oldest state in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
So our average age is the oldest. And so we had a significant aging out. And we also have, which may sound strange, but our mortality rate has exceeded our birth rate.
Okay, it isn't strange. That sounds like Japan.
And they would show us,
Yeah.
we would have the state economists come and they'd say, I know you've heard this before, but it was getting closer. Now so we have a shortage of the youth coming in.
Sure.
And we have those coming in, you've got the middle. So it's like, how do you work with what you have?
Right.
And that's why I think so critical to work on the going back into K through 12, reaching back into them and helping them understand what skill development is and what apprenticeships are, because we're going to need them. And here's where the aging out and the biggest industries are.
So are you seeing a exodus then of graduating high school seniors in leaving Maine for other opportunities, whether it's another college or university or just a job?
I think there's the population that likes Maine and doesn't want to leave Maine or is comfortable with that.
Right.
And there's others, you probably have them here, they can't wait to get out.
Oh, sure.
And so,
at a graduating senior, of course.
They're like, we want to go see
Yeah.
it. And the challenge you have is our borders is Massachusetts, which probably double the salaries, but
Right.
you have to double the expenses.
Right.
So what we found is our recruiting was to get those that have graduated, gone back out into the world, to come back to Maine and to settle and build a family. And then they would be our workers. So it wouldn't necessarily be the young, but it'd be kind of that young mid-size 30 to 45, which is where we had the gap. The other thing, give you a quick example, is working with the aging out workers. How do you build an apprenticeship that somebody's going to probably retire 3 to 5 years, but they've been there for 20 years and they have this huge institutional knowledge?
Right, exactly.
So how do I build something that's 3 years and it'll get maybe a mid-level or some stellar entry level? Within 3 years, they may not be 100%, but they're 70, 80% there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can move them in. So that's kind of the creative ways on how to support that.
Well, I don't know if you called it talent pipeline, but that is
Right.
is
Exactly
kind of the
right.
discussion here.
Yeah.
And you probably know this, and if you don't, you'll discover quickly that INL, the lab, and lab contractors are graying out exactly the way you described. So for us as a community college, I think the two things that we add to that mix at our level, two-year and skill, would be to try to prevent those graduating seniors from leaving. And then, just exactly like you described, try to attract individuals back into Idaho. And just around the college, as you begin to get to know the staff and faculty here, you'll discover a number of them who have left, and now they're coming back, and you come back for the quality of life, and it's time to raise a family, and this is a good place to do that.
It is, and that's what's so important for us, because it's a CEI family.
Right.
So you've got your alumni. How do we support the alumni for a number of different reasons? One is they may need additional training depending where they were. We'd like them to come back to Idaho, and then also potential donors to support.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is always keep our alumni as part of the family.
Right. Yeah, it is. And again, like I said, you're going to find a lot of our current employees that just have come back,
Right.
Maybe you can only stand San Diego so long. Every day it's beautiful weather.
Every day it's 72 and sunny.
Every day it is. So being from Maine, you know what winters are like. So there's no shock for you.
Yeah. I like the drier snow, though.
Sure.
Yeah, I like
there's
powder.
Nothing worse than wet snow.
Wet, icy.
Yeah, I think I'm from Oregon. So
Yes.
when it snowed in the Willamette Valley, it was not a happy thing at all.
Yeah, very heavy and wet.
It is. Well, you've been introduced to both Future Tech and the Regional Skills Labor Center. So both of those are on the docket, and we're moving forward. What strikes you with what you've seen in Future Tech? So a lot of what we want to do in Future Tech is aimed at workforce. This is not a place where we do particularly gen ed transfer kinds of classes. So it's hands-on, skill-based. So Let's just talk about the facilities
Sure.
for a second. And again, you've seen the fly through, and what strikes you as being good design, or do you think there's any areas we should look at before we pound nails?
Well, let me step back a little bit. I've been in a few of the meetings,
Yeah, you have.
and I want to say that my observation is a significant amount of work has been done in a short amount of time.
It has.
And it's very detailed, and the concept is really student-centered. I mean, everywhere you look, it's student-centered. That's the focus of it. The other thing I think, I just went to a meeting last week, and the architecture team, the construction team, the design team, I think they have a really good grasp on CEI's vision for that building.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of intuitive in what they're doing. So I think it's a good match there. As far as the building goes, I like it because they're making it a demonstrative building so that we can see through and demonstrate some of the trainings,
Right.
which I think is critical, because that helps people to understand what that topic is or what the subject is, and that might pique my interest to know more. And I can also promote that and talk to my family and friends about how cool the building is. So it's got a number of different areas, and it's very open spaced for community, but it also has work areas. So it's got a really good mix of multi-use inside it.
Yeah, those roll-up doors, a lot of the stuff is innovative. So it has been a long time at CEI since we've seen a new building. Building 6, the health building was the last one, and that's been a lot of years. So we're long overdue. What do you think about conferencing center? That's about a 320 seat center. What are areas you think workforce could utilize something, a room, a center like that?
Sure. Well, I think part of it is you've got workforce practitioners around the U.S. How do we offer them up? Everybody has annual conferences. How do we do retreats? How do we support that? Because that brings people to Idaho. That also showcases the college and helps to demonstrate, and we're able to show our best practices. But it's also idea exchange. And sometimes when you have that, people can walk around the campus. We may get new ideas from the people that are here,
right,
to the attendees. So I see a value in that. I want to step back quickly.
Yeah, of course.
One of the things that I've heard in the meetings with Future Tech is the very nature of the name of a Future Tech. So the design within is going to be mobile and adaptable. And I think that's and they've got things where all the chairs are going to move or the walls can move and things aren't necessarily nailed down unless they need to be. And that is, again, that's the very nature of Future Tech, because we really don't know what 5 to 10 years is going to be like. So you're not going to have to spend a whole lot of time or money reconfiguring, because everything kind of has a temporary adaptable feel to it.
Well, we talk about this all the time. We are training students for jobs that don't exist yet. So how do you build a building with that in mind? And one of the things I'm really glad that you noticed, and we're building this around the students. So this is not a place where we're going to have a lot of offices. The president's office won't be in there, and the only offices really would be for the teaching faculty.
Right. And I think it's one of the things I like is there's opportunities to have events.
Yeah.
And that's going to bring the community in. And again, that's what you had mentioned earlier, is that's what the difference between universities and community college is. We're about the community. So having a facility that helps invite the community in helps them to take ownership and understand the opportunity.
So one of the things you and I can do once you catch your breath, and an area that we haven't put a lot of emphasis in is energy at CEI, but we're in an energy corridor, and whether it's nuclear, small modular reactor, or up on the hillside, you see the wind turbines, and of course solar is big, and none of that, any of the renewables rely on battery technology. So with this new building, we would look at how do you capture that? How do you store it? so battery technology,
Right.
and you may or may not know, but INL has got a battery group that
Yes.
does tests with
Yeah.
that. And then you've got the resilience with microgrids.
Mhm.
How do you handle that? How do you protect that with cyber? And then we get into the whole realm of electric vehicles. So that may well be things that we do in this kind of building.
Correct.
Maybe we pull a couple electric vehicles into one of those spaces and let students work on those, or if nothing else, put them in the hallway. Everything's polished concrete, right? So drive a car in and let people look at that and see the difference between regular internal combustion and what happens with electric vehicles.
Well, and seeing, to me, that right there shows the innovative and forward thinking of the college, because you're already anticipating that batteries are here.
Oh, sure.
But so how do you build them, support them, service them? And then you're going to have, where do the batteries go into? Right. So how do we do that? So that's, again, I think those are right where we need to be, because that is the future. And how do we prepare our workers to be able to go into those industries?
And one of the things, and I know that you're going to be able to take advantage of it. This is the building itself is a teaching building. We will train on the building. It's just a 2-story building, so you work on safety up on the roof, and I think there will be heating and cooling elements using probably groundwater or that kind of thing, because the temperature deep in the earth is consistent. So you bring warm air up in summer or in winter, and then cool air up in summer. And so those are all systems, as well as systems in storing using batteries to store and then power the building. So students are actually going to get a hands-on opportunity with facilities in this particular building.
Well, and one of the things that provides value is they can come in and understand. Again, it's the hands-on practical.
Yeah.
I can see this and I can do the simulations, but I can actually, the instructor can go take them out in that section of the building and say, this is what we were just talking about. Here's how it actually works. And then it also helps the non-energy related students to understand what energy is about and how it works. So it's got a dual purpose.
And I'm not sure. I don't know if we've talked much about just plain business. So the idea of entrepreneurship and in accounting and all of those kind of things. But whether we're dealing in energy and how do you connect wires, but then also there are people in the back office that make that work, and certainly we hope that we get some entrepreneurs in this building, and maybe we help students with a entrepreneurial club or those kind of things. What comes to mind in that realm of business?
Well, I think you had mentioned, and we've seen maker spaces.
Yep.
And I think that's part of the innovation and mindset, is to help people to create, to break and recreate, and to fall and to make mistakes and try new things, and then have the cross disciplines to try crazy new things. But they aren't afraid to try. They're not afraid to fail, because that's how things go forward and move. So having that kind of environment here, and I just think future tech right there is, it's like you make it what you want it to be, and what does it look like to you, and how do you use the skills and the things that we're training to make the future, because the students will be the future.
Yeah. And this building, the new building, really it's not designed for those necessarily trades kind of things, plumbing, electrical, construction. So we're looking for a building that could be a regional skills labor building. And quite frankly, I think all we need is concrete floor and 4 walls and a roof, and be able to
high ceiling
and a high ceiling. And we're working on that, but that's really dead center in some of the work you're doing, Jeff.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. And again, one of the integral components to our success and to what we do, we've got to have employer engagement.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that tell us the skills. They're the ones that tell us the workday and the occupational job descriptions. that's why it's really important for us to get in and understand them, because if we can get as close of understanding what they want and we mirror that in our training with hands-on, they're going to be more marketable. And then those employees recognize the value and the quality of our training, and they're going to start looking for our graduates specifically because they know they're good.
Yeah, we talk about that. We're marketing for fall, but you probably would agree that the best marketing we ever could do is word of mouth. And I discovered that with our plumbers that they came in and they like that experience. So if they leave with a good experience, they will recommend the college to others. So,
and they'll come back.
That's exactly what we need. So your role is a little bit unique, I think, compared to a lot of the college. A lot of the college is focused, let's say maybe 90% internally. We're kind of introspective. The work that a lot of people do would be here on campus, and whether it's teaching or functions within the college itself. You're a little unique, and we'll kind of talk about a balance, but I would imagine that at least a third of your time is focused outside of the college. And what comes to mind? How are you going to get integrated into a new community and meet business and industry leaders and those kind of things?
Well, and I think what I first start with is, it doesn't have to be first, but we have the college industry advisory committees.
We do.
And those are people in the community. So I attend those meetings, get an understanding of them, and then they will by nature introduce me to their circles and their industries. Then there's always the Chamber of Commerce are always a champion. Economic development entities like READY, trade associations at the state level. And that's important because then you get a state perspective and a regional at the same time to involve there. And then also, what are some of the local and regional committees that I may sit on or I can serve and provide value to help support their initiatives? Because that way, if I can help support them, there may be an opportunity down the road to help them to support us in what we do. So it's just kind of a nice way to get engaged.
Yeah. So we always talk about we're not a university. We don't do research. We don't do baccalaureates, masters, PhDs, those kind of things. But on the other hand, we certainly could have PhDs that come here because they want to learn how to weld, or they are moving into maybe health professions or those kind of things. So we're pretty unique as a community college.
One of the things that I find is that we can be more responsive and agile to meeting the community's needs in the industries. Because of that. And I think that's one of our competitive advantages.
It is, yeah. Well, Jeff, we have we're getting close to our time here. Time goes rather quickly, and one of the things I like to end with is to give our guest an opportunity. You've been in a leadership role for a lot of years. So, what advice do you have for the college, for anybody that is in a supervisory position, leadership-wise? So, do you have a couple of thoughts?
I do. It's three things.
Okay,
and it starts with who you are. You need to have integrity, you need to have honesty, and you need to have humility to admit when you're wrong or when you're not doing the right thing. And I think that's important. And also your talk needs to be aligned with your walk. Because it's lead by example. And I need to be encouraging, a coach and mentor with my associates. So that's who you are. And then it's what do you do? And part of it is, again, lead by example, and helping to support and live by looking for innovation, looking for best practices, looking on how to keep moving and progressing forward to do the best possible you can, because that's what you want your division to do, and that's what you want your employees to do, because that's what the community deserves. And then it's what you do, but the third one is how do you do it? And I think that's the part is it's having a vision and setting clear direction. And it's empowering people for success so that they can grow and develop professionally and personally.
So those are great thoughts and great techniques. As we're getting to know each other a bit, one of the things that I mentioned a couple of days ago that we look at or talk about here would be the 3 F's.
Mhm.
So focus,
Mhm.
favor, and follow through. So a lot of what you just mentioned would be exactly that. We shouldn't do everything. Focus
Correct.
is
Correct.
pick those areas that we can really excel at and pay attention to that. Then favor is simply, and you're going to be out in the community as much as I am. So we want the community to have a favorable
Right.
impression of the
Absolutely.
college because we're moderately pleasant
Absolutely.
out there and
Absolutely.
we know what we're doing. So that's the favor part. And then follow through.
Absolutely.
If we promise to do something, we actually do that. So that matches quite nicely with part of the culture of the college.
Good. Excellent.
Well, Jeff, we are so glad to have you. So thank you for spending a few minutes with us.
Very good. And I appreciate the time, and come back another time. This has been fun.
No,
After
absolutely.
I've been 3 to 6 months, I can come back and tell you what I know.
Okay, well, that's good. That is perfect. So let me thank you all for joining us at noon. And again, summer begins on June 7th. That's going to be Monday. So if you see students wandering around campus, be sure to welcome them and help them find any of the classrooms or any of the facilities they might need. So I want to wish you a great weekend, and hopefully we'll have nice weather.
Yes.